Hello people, this is Doc Wang here recording. In this video clip, I'm going to talk about our second chapter, International Monetary System. So we're not only talking about the US dollar, but also the other major currencies in the world and how the exchange rate would fluctuate and what are the determinants of the exchange rate. So this is a picture of the US dollar bills. It's not new to us, and you see the images are the founding fathers of the United States. And then here you got another type of currency. This is a Canadian dollar. And right here you see a Japanese yen. The denomination is much larger than US dollars. This 1,000 Japanese yen is roughly $10, and 10,000 Japanese yen is roughly $100. And this currency is called a British pound. You see the head of Queen of England is printed on there. You also see these famous figures like Dr. Darwin, who developed the evolutionary theory, Mr. Adam Smith, who wrote the book Wealth of Nation. I talked about the absolute advantage of trade in the previous chapter. That was from him. And also Isaac Newton. All right, this is euros. As you can see, it comes to a maximum of 500 euros in denomination. So that's quite large. And a lot of countries in Europe definitely use euros. That include Ireland, France, Spain, Germany, and so on and so forth. There are also other currencies like a British pound, like Swedish krone, Polish zloty, so on. And these currencies have a floating exchange rate regime. You also have Denmark krona and the Louisiana Bulgarian currencies, and their currency value is pegged to euros. So that means when euro appreciate against the dollar by 1%, Danish krone will appreciate against the dollar by 1%. So the value is pegged. It's not a one-to-one exchange, but the change of exchange rate will be 1% to 1% for the two currencies. And here is a global map of all the countries and the currencies they use. In Brazil, they use Brazilian real. In Australia, they use Australian dollars. And some of the countries use currency called a pound, but it's not a British pound. It may be Egyptian pound. And some still use the franc, and you see the Russian rubles, and Indian rupees, Korean won, and so on. So not everyone in the world use US dollars, but definitely US dollar is one of the most popular currencies in the world. The last time the Federal Reserve has some statistics, over 50% of the dollar ever printed by the Federal Reserve is circulated outside the United States. Okay, so think about half of our money is used by foreigners. Okay, so why do we need a foreign currency? Why do we need a British pound or Japanese yen? So if we need something, then that creates a demand. Of course, we want to purchase the goods and services from other countries, and not every country accept US dollars as a payment. So we need to convert our US dollars to Swiss franc to euros to buy, to import goods from them, or even spend our vacation in that country. All right. Another reason is we want to conduct investment in those countries, and this investment is not just buying stocks or bonds. It could also mean you start a factory, you hire local people, establish a business in that country. And here it comes to a very important question. How much do we pay for each unit of foreign currency? If you want to buy shares in the European stock market, so one share may cost you 100 euros, and you want to know what's the exchange rate for a euro. Is that $1.2 or $1.1 or any other figures? And that's going to definitely affect your fortune. Okay, so we need to treat the foreign currencies as a commodity to purchase or to sell. All right. So if you have euros in your hands, you want to convert it back to US dollars. That's considered selling the euros. So there has to be a price for everything. Euros, the price would be called the exchange rate of euros. If you go to a gas station and buy some gas, and the price is $3.87 per gallon. The Right now it's much cheaper than that. Definitely, it's like a $2 per gallon, and the oil price is negative $37 per barrel of a petroleum. So that's negative for the first time. And the food price, you have a dollar figure per unit of food. It could be a hamburger, it could be one slice of pizza, and you have a price for college. It may be the dollar cost for a whole diploma you work on for 4 years, or it can be measured as $650 per credit at St. Xavier. All right, and you also have a stock price. This is the stock price for Microsoft a couple of years ago. That's $47 per share. And then if we look at the foreign currencies, for British pound, it could be $1.56 per pound. Okay, so one British pound is in exchange of 1.56 US dollars. And for one Japanese yen, it could be exchanged to 0.01 US dollars or just one penny. Okay, so that also means one US dollar is equivalent to 100 Japanese yen. Now here it comes to a very important concept. It's called a direct quote. Okay, we also call it direct quotation. So that basically is the dollar price of one unit of a foreign currency or the price of foreign currency in dollars. Okay, so you see all of these are direct quotes. Okay, like gas price, we don't say zero point 0.3 gallon $1. All right, we say 3 gallons or $3 per gallon. We don't say 0.3 gallons of gas per US dollar. Okay, and also for food, we don't say $1 can buy a half burger. All right. Likewise, for British pound, we say one British pound is $1.5. One Japanese yen is one penny. So that's how we mark the price of those currencies. Okay, and here we have the idea of appreciation or depreciation. So the depreciation is the decline of a currency's value. So that's pretty easy to understand. And you should know that the value of the foreign currency or even domestic currency is measured by a different currencies, and that raises complications. And we will address that later. So appreciation is an increase of a currency's value, and you also need to calculate the amount of appreciation or depreciation based on this formula. So this formula is the exchange rate in the later time period minus exchange rate in the earlier time period divided by the exchange rate in the earlier time period. And this is the same formula we use to calculate the return of any financial assets. Okay, it's the later price minus the earlier price, the difference divided by the earlier price. Okay, so if that is a positive, that means appreciation. If the number is a negative, that means a depreciation. All right, if you put a stock price, it's the same rule. If the number turn out to be positive, then the stock is having a good return. If the number turn out to be negative, that means you have a loss from the stock investment. Okay, and then we also have the comparison of the different currencies. Some of them are called hard currencies, like US dollar. The value is very strong against all other currencies. You probably have heard the quantitative easing policy implemented by the Federal Reserve Bank or the Central Bank of the United States. The QE is another word for printing money. The difference is it's electronic money. It's not really a paper money. Okay, although the Central Bank of the U.S. has been printing money on and on for the past 8 years or so, the dollar value did not decline against all major currencies. So dollar is definitely one of the strongest currency in the world. So what are the other strong currencies? Some currencies like a British pound, like Japanese yen, like a Swiss franc, Austrian dollars. What are the soft currencies? The soft currencies usually the currency that melt so easily or their value declines so easily. So like a Zimbabwe dollar, you can have a 10 trillion, I'm talking about 12 zeros, 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollar just in one single paper bill, and that is worthless. Okay, that is worthless. Or the Deutsche Mark after the First World War. So the German government tried to solve its debt issue by massively issuing or printing the German money, and basically the value of each Deutsche Mark is nothing, and the people burn that, burn the money, packs and packs of the money to keep themselves warm in the winter. And here is an exercise. So suppose fictitiously that the exchange rate of euro today is $0.75 per euro. Next year it will be $1.5 per euro. How much does the euro appreciate or depreciate against the US dollar? So the currency we're analyzing here is euro, definitely, and the price is expressed in the amount of US dollar. And you should also know which number is for a later rate and which number is for an earlier rate. So this is easy to tell. 1.5 is later, 0.75 is earlier. So you just use the formula later price minus earlier price divided by earlier price, and then you get 100% calculated. So that means euro's value appreciated against the US dollar by 100%. It jumped from 0.75 all the way to 1.5, and the value just doubled. That's a 100% increase in value. The math by itself is pretty easy to calculate, but you should also know how much dollar depreciated against the euro. So 100% is the appreciation of a euro against a dollar, but we also need to know how much dollar depreciated against the euro. Is that negative 100%? The answer is no. In the financial world, there's no negative 100% decline until last month. All right, so negative 100% means the commodity you own has become a zero value. Okay, has become zero value. So for a stock, for a bond, or for any other currencies, the worst situation is zero. Okay, these are liquid assets. So the worst situation is having no value left at all. So, and that is a negative 100% decline. Why I said that situation existed until last month. You know what happened last month? The oil price became negative. All right. So for the petroleum you own, not only it becomes nothing, but also you need to pay those people to sell your petroleum. You know, you pay the others to sell things instead of receiving money for selling things. So that's quite counterintuitive. Okay. All I want to say here is the dollar did not depreciate against the euro by negative 100%. That's quite impossible. So how do we calculate the exact number? Then we need to first calculate the value of US dollar in terms of euros. Okay, in terms of euros, we call this an indirect rate, or the euro price for each one of the US dollar. Okay, how do we get that? It's simple. We just take the reciprocal. $0.75 per euro is 1.33 euro per dollar. Okay, so $1 is equivalent to 1.33 euro, or 1 euro is equivalent to $0.75. All right, do the same thing with the second rate. $1.5 per euro, take reciprocal, gives us 0.67 euro per US dollar. Okay, by taking the reciprocal, the symbol also swapped. So you see a euro here and dollar here, and previously it was dollar on the left, euro on the right. Okay, and then you use the same formula. Let me repeat, you use the same formula. Again, it is the later rate minus the earlier rate divided by an earlier rate. And then you get the finalized number that's negative 50%. So your conclusion here is the US dollar depreciated by 50% against the euro, while euro appreciated against US dollar by 100%. So that makes more sense, right? When euro value doubles against the dollar, then the dollar's value cut in half against the euro. And here is a brief summary. To work on dollar appreciation or depreciation, then we should use the euro price per dollar, okay, per dollar. And this is also called indirect quote. And if we want to work on the euro appreciation or depreciation, we should use the dollar price of a euro. Okay, how many dollars per euro, and that is called a direct quote. This is predominantly used for the rest of the class, but you are required to know the calculation by using both indirect quote and a direct quote. The formula here, in order to calculate the amount of appreciation or depreciation, is always the same. Okay, it's the same for currency, it's the same for stock, it's the same for bond, and all the other financial assets, which is the later rate minus earlier rate divided by earlier rate. And here is an example. The value of an Australian dollar today is $0.73. Yesterday, it was $0.69. So the Australian dollar should appreciate or depreciate, and by how much? Right here you see the later rate is the rate today, 0.373. The earlier rate is 0.69. That was yesterday. And then you see later is higher, earlier is lower, so definitely that's appreciation. The question is by how much? You will get back to this formula, okay? The later rate is 0.37, sorry, the later rate is 0.73 minus earlier rate of 0.69 divided by 0.69, the earlier rate, and then you do the calculation. The answer will show up right here. You should select C, 5.8%. So this kind of calculation you should know, and it will appear in your quiz, the second one, and also the exams. And right here, you also need to calculate how much dollar depreciate against the Australian dollar. What you need to take the reciprocal of the exchange rates from a dollar per Australian dollar, from the US dollar per Australian dollar to the amount of Australian dollar per US dollar. And then you use the same formula to do the work. Okay. The answer also showed in the note bar of the PowerPoint of this slide. Okay. There is also an easier way. The amount of depreciation is 1 over 1 plus the amount of appreciation, which is a positive number. So you can see this fraction definitely yield a number less than 1. So if you use a number less than 1 subtracted by 1, so that's going to give you a negative number. So depreciation definitely is a negative return. If you want to figure out the amount of appreciation while you know the amount of depreciation, then you should use 1 minus the absolute value of depreciation, or just use 1 plus depreciation, given that depreciation is a negative number, then minus 1. So you see this part will definitely be greater than 1, and then you subtract it by 1 will definitely make it a positive number. So appreciation is a positive return. Okay, so what are other requirements for this class? So let me just open my whiteboard. So let's see, we're analyzing a currency called a British pound, and we will use T. Let's say T is today. Okay, T stands for time, and then tomorrow, then it will be a later stage, T minus 1. For today, the exchange rate is let's say $1.25 per pound, and tomorrow it will be $2 per pound. All right. So the amount of appreciation will be 2 minus 1.25 divided by the earlier amount. So that's going to be 0.75 divided by 1.25. So that's going to be 60%. Okay. And this is derived from the direct quote. So this is the amount of a pound appreciate against the dollar. Okay. And if you want to know how much dollar depreciate against a pound, then we'll need to take the reciprocal. I mean, use a different color. The reciprocal of 1.25 will be 0.8 pound per dollar, and the reciprocal of $2 per pound will be $0.5 per pound. Okay, and this will use the same formula. Okay, later rate minus earlier rate divided by earlier rate, and this will be negative 37.5%. Okay, so the amount is not negative 60%. We cannot just do this. Okay, you have to restructure your calculation like that. So what are the additional requirements for the currency appreciation or depreciation? I could ask you this. For Japanese yen, today the value is $0.01 per yen. Yen depreciate against the dollar by 2%. So what's the rate later? Let's say in 1 month, later next month. Okay, so you will need to use today's rate or the earlier rate multiplied by 1 plus the amount of a change, which is negative 2%. So this would give you $0.0098 per yen. Okay, so this question basically is asking you to know the rate today and then amount of depreciation to get the future rate. Okay, here is another question. Let's say today the euro rate is $1.1 per euro. Okay, and it has appreciated by 10% in the past month. So what is the euro rate last month? Okay, so what you need to do here is you're gonna hold the rate in a later stage, okay, divided by 1 plus the change of a euro value, which is a positive 10%, and then you will figure out it's going to be $1.0 per euro. So that will be your answer. Okay, and in this question, we know the rate in a later stage, and we know how much the appreciation or depreciation of the currency, and we solve for the rate in the earlier stage. And this come back to the formula. So you see the amount of appreciation or depreciation equals to the rate in the later stage minus the rate in the earlier stage divided by the rate in the earlier stage. You should have the ability to derive this formula into this. So the later rate equals to the earlier rate times 1 plus the amount of appreciation or depreciation, or the earlier rate equals to the later rate divided by 1 plus the amount of appreciation or depreciation. Okay, so that's the master requirement. And right here, you have the value of the euro was $1.3 last week. During last week, the euro depreciated by 5%. So what should you get for the euro value today? You should use 1.3 times 1 minus 5%, being a depreciation is a negative, and then your answer should be $1.235 per euro. No matter you are dealing with the exchange rates in direct quote or indirect quote, and to get the amount of appreciation or depreciation, you just follow this formula if you know the change of the other currency. And here is an example. Suppose that Brazilian real depreciates to 40% against US dollar. How much will the dollar appreciate against the real? So in this question, you will know that Brazilian real dropped by negative 40%. So if you use the formula before, so it should be 1 over 1 minus 40%, okay, minus 1. So the amount of dollar appreciation would be 67% positive.